Hey B, do you want to record an episode of our Criminal Minds podcast, Wheels Up?
Oh my gosh, James, I would love to record an episode of Wheels Up. Do you want to talk about season 1, episode 7, The Fox?
I would love to talk about season 1, episode 7, The Fox.
Can we talk about how dumb of the name The Fox is? Because they talk about a fox, like the animal, for like a minute. And then it's over.
I get that. Like, I get the metaphor, right? A fox in a hen house, they kill all the hens. It's like the thing.
Yeah.
In a very brutal way, right? Because they're animals. So I get the metaphor, but no one ever calls him the fox.
They really don't. But then later in like fucking season 10 or whatever, when Hotchner goes back to talk to the fox, he just calls him the fox.
Like he's gotten that nickname. They definitely like wanted to reference back to this episode, but they didn't watch it. They just were like, what was it called? The Fox? Oh, that must have been the killer's like nickname. So yeah, we'll just call him the Fox.
It would have been sick if they fucking nicknamed this killer, but they didn't.
They didn't though.
I do gotta say though, I do love this episode though, because it's a very like this is an episode of Criminal Minds, the television show. You know?
Like, yes, it is.
This is an episode, and I'm like, yeah, okay. This episode kind of hits. Like, the way they did, like, the creepy, like, children's music over every single scene with a family in this show, without exception. Yeah. Okay, music director, go the fuck off on this episode, dude. It fucking slapped.
They also did the thing where there were, like, 3 different options for the unsub, or, like, 4 different unsub options, which is, like, always a thing they like to do.
They really did a lot of like red herrings, but they also, you know what I didn't understand about this episode, the very impetus of it?
What?
They only had one family that they knew of.
Well,
and the BAU already had the case. I don't know. Let's talk about the beginning of this ep.
Okay, yeah, because I actually made a point, because I think I like how they did this. So it starts with the cute dad. You like hear the kid screaming like he's gonna get me, and you think it's gonna be a killer, and it's like the dad being dumb.
Yeah,
and then like the mom is like, come on, we've got like a 12-hour car ride tomorrow, why would you work them up? And then they send the kids out to get the dog Ben, and they're like calling, and Ben just like doesn't fucking
this dog is ignoring these children like a fucking pro.
Yeah, he's like eating food, but then you like see him go into the house. So you're like, okay, that's cool, I guess.
Yeah, that really confused me at first. I was like, I don't know why the dog going inside the house was such a significant thing that we spent so much time on, but then I got it later. So this is a really nice little like, you're not going to realize why we're holding this shot for so long, but it does have a reason actually.
And it was interesting too, and I realized watching this, because I knew that the dog got taken by the unsub, right? Mm-hmm. They make that like very clear. But I knew that like that happened, and I was watching the way they filmed it, and they show the kids calling for Ben. They show Ben eating outside of a door. Then they show the kids being like, "Oh well," and going back inside, and then you see Ben go through a dog door, and the guy says, "Good job, Ben." But you only see the dog door part of the door. And then when it shows the dad, he's looking out a window and you can't see the dog door. So they like cut it to look like it was the same door.
Oh,
but it,
shit,
but because you find out later that the wife's brother was there and took the dog. So the dog, and then when they go to his house, we see the dog enter his dog door. So what it really was this one scene is the dog with the brother going into the brother's house, and the brother says like, "Good boy, Ben." And then the other scene is the kids and the husband not being able to find the dog.
That's actually really fucking smart. I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah, and they cut it together to look like it was all the same scene. That's why it lingered for so long. It was because it was 2 different scenes, and they were like giving you a chance to like figure it out.
Criminal Minds, a good show sometimes. Maybe.
This was a good episode.
Yeah, this is I think the first episode in season 1 that I see the promise of Criminal Minds. I see what they're doing.
It was a good balance of like we're just figuring things out, but also like doing actual tricky
This is a
tricks.
job that we do. Like,
Yeah. It's like
we're all
half
learning how to do
sensing
it
and half
together, but
tricks.
this is a job that we do get paid a lot of money for. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So the kids like sleep in the parents' bed because they're like so excited to go to Disney the next morning, etc., etc. And then the wife wakes up and she like rolls over and like kisses a blanket covered body good morning. And then she sits up and she's like, wait, weren't the kids in bed? And then she like turns around and it dramatically zooms on the husband with a gag, and the wife is like, huh? And then there's Unsub like sits up and it's like boom boom boom. Cut to the
the
next scene.
fucking
Like,
way they zoom in on this husband's face is
ugh,
comical.
I
So,
love a good Criminal Minds fucking zoom.
I love like bad action movies. And that zoom in on this dude's face was
Yeah,
very bad action movie.
100%.
It was so fucking good.
It was so. It was like, it literally. I wanted them to be like, boom, boom,
I know I
boom.
wanted a dramatic cut there, and then they just go to Gideon and Elle, where the fucking Gideon's like looking at crime scene photos from the from the fucking attack already. So you're
Yeah.
like, okay, well,
So
there we go.
I think. I think so. So okay. I do want to talk about this because this is the first time that JJ brings a case to the team.
It is.
So they're already looking at the pictures because JJ has already brought this to them. You know that we instead of them getting called into the briefing room, we're put in there mid briefing. Um, and then and I cringed so hard at this. Um, I cringed so hard. I was so mad at this. Derek looks at JJ and says, you better have a good reason for bringing this to us. It just looks like a fucking murder suicide.
But it also makes sense because they really only have one case right then. So like I get why Derek is like, why the fuck am I taking
Yeah.
a look at this? This I
And then
do
JJ's like,
serials.
there's a second case a month ago. But I was just like, Derek, let the bitch do her fucking job. She'll get there. Like, Derek, what the fuck? And he
Derek,
was
don't
like,
you
why are
fucking
you bringing
know?
this to my attention?
Derek, don't you fucking know that she does the only work in this unit, Derek? Hey, Derek, she'll fucking get to her point if you don't ruin the
Uh,
fucking plot twist here.
so fucking
Damn.
funny. Although I will say we did skip something, and that's Hotch's baby and Haley.
Hodge has a baby now and it's very cute.
It's really cute. JJ is like, I fucking love babies. Penelope is like, this is cute as hell, and Reed's like, it's wrinkly and ugly, and it cries.
Which is so funny because he's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Babies are kind of ugly,
Yeah,
except
and
for the
wrinkly,
fact
and they
that they are
cry.
little tiny babies, which
Oh.
is just like a cute concept, but they
I
are
know.
ugly in practice.
Yeah, and then Derek pokes his head out. It pokes his head like to look at the baby, and Reed's like, "Do you want a kid, Derek?" And he goes, "I'll stick to practicing," which
Which is so
so
funny.
funny. And Reed like cringes. Reed is like, "Oh no!" Like,
It's honestly so funny.
it's honestly so funny.
I love that.
Yeah,
So, families are getting murdered.
they are.
They're getting murked,
I wrote
unfortunately.
down. I wrote down some information that we get.
Okay, yeah.
Both of the families were set to go on a vacation. They were
Mhm.
both discovered 5 days after the vacation was supposed to start, but they were only dead for 24 hours. So they had been kept alive for 4 days before they were found.
Yikes, gang.
Yikes,
Yikes.
gang.
And so everybody's like, oh, so this is bad then, because people would have screamed or called for help or something if they could, but they didn't. So
They
what is the
didn't.
meaning of it?
Bum, bum, bum. Yeah. And then we find out that Norman Miller, who is the dad of the first family's kids, the Millers.
Mm-hmm.
He was the birth dad, but the wife had just remarried like a month before,
Mm-hmm.
or like really close to when they died. And so people like think that he did it because he was like abusive and like an alcoholic and very possessive and didn't like it. So they think that when he found out the wife remarried, that he killed them all basically. And he was arrested the night before. He had been like hiding out in a motel, and they find out that like there was a restraining order. He was drunk. There was blood on his jacket. And he's this like big hulking dude. Um,
He
and
is a
Gideon,
very big dude. Physically, this guy is fucking huge.
yeah, and like broad shouldered, bulky, tall, like the whole
Yeah.
9 yards. And then Gideon is like, "Hey Reed, why don't you go interview him?" And JJ literally has to like pinch her lips together to keep from laughing out loud. It's like so savage.
She, to be fair though, I think this guy, the Mr. Miller, is like 4 Spencers worth of like height and
Oh,
weight.
worth of man. Yeah.
Like, Spencer also goes in with the weirdest interrogation tactic I've ever fucking seen, which is bonkers, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
yeah.
the other thing I wanted to mention here about this episode is that we have a lot of Gideon and Morgan moments because they're investigating the first family's house.
Yeah.
Which I actually really enjoy their like dynamic when they're at a crime scene. Because I think it really
Yeah.
does set up well for in the later seasons when Derek kind of takes the reins on crime scene investigation specifically. Um,
Yeah.
I really like that here. I like that Gideon just starts fucking yelling out of nowhere to see if he
Oh,
can get the neighbor's attention. He
it
just
is
fucking
so
screams.
fucking funny.
He just fucking
He does.
screams,
He
and
does.
then the lights across in the house across the street like come on, and somebody like comes
Yeah.
out of the fucking garage. And like it
So
proves a good point, but like holy shit, he just fucking yells.
yeah. So okay. Yeah. So Rita and Morgan go to the house. They go to the basement. They realize that like there's no restraints on any of the kids, but they didn't like run away. So they figure like, okay, he must have like said to the mom like, "I'll hurt the kids," and then to the kids like, "I'll hurt your mom," like to get them to
Yeah.
all stay together. Um, and yeah, and so they like go upstairs. They're looking around the house. Morgan is like, the yard is overgrown. The dad's car really needs repair, but the wife's got like a bright and shiny SUV. They're clearly like living beyond their means. They're just trying to like put up a front of having
Wealth.
money, but they're actually, yeah, they're actually
Yeah.
like poor. And then Gideon finds like the child's drawing with no color on the fridge.
A very good drawing by this
Yeah,
child. Like
and
she's
he keeps
8, she
being
has a
like,
pretty good idea of perspective.
he keeps being like, there's dimension, there's these lines, she's done it, like keeps being like, wow, this drawing, and like takes it with his bare hands.
He has like a good point about it though, but yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. But he has a good point about the reason he's like, there's no color here.
No, 100%. I was like, damn, yeah, you're right. No kid is like, I'm gonna do a perfect house drawing and not color it in. Like,
Like seriously,
yeah.
no kid does a drawing that cool and doesn't ruin it with some sort of clashing color scheme.
Especially when they find like the one of the therapist office and it's the most like god awful pink and yellow. Like, oof. The house looks nothing like the house, He's like holding them up side by side and he's like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so this is where we see the dog door. And Morgan points to something that's plugged in, and we find out that the dog door is like locked, and only the chip on the dog's collar will open it. We also learned that Derek has a black belt in judo.
No, I think he said it was the dad who had a black belt in judo.
No, no,
Derek
no,
was like,
no.
you would have to be a big guy to overwhelm the dad, and then Gideon's
Yeah,
like, yeah, I mean the guy had a black belt in judo, and then he's like, but if I have a gun to your head, it doesn't
no.
matter how many belts you
Morgan,
have, right?
Morgan says the guy has a black belt in judo, and Gideon goes, "Okay, so do you, but I have a gun to the back of your head."
Oh shit! Does he have that, or was that just Gideon being like, okay,
I
role play
mean,
time?
at the end of the episode, he fucking like pow 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 gets the knife out of his unsub.
Okay,
Like
maybe he
I'll
does,
choke
huh?
you. Like, and then later he's the
Fucking
one he trains JJ in hand to hand combat later.
Criminal Minds Wiki.
I took that to mean that he does. I would believe that he did. You know, he literally trains JJ in armed combat later.
Does he have?
Does he have it?
Does he have?
I'm gonna say that he does because I
it
like
would
it.
track if they did.
I was just like, they just keep giving him accolades, you know,
They really do. He is probably one of the most
like
like
obsessional crimes, the bomb squad, like with
Chicago
children.
police, yeah.
He was in the Chicago police force. He went. We find out in the next episode that he was deep undercover for 18 months. He's got a black belt in judo. Like Morgan
This
has
guy is
done
so
it all.
fucking
Done it.
decorated.
He went to fucking law school. Like, dude is smart as hell, buff as hell.
I love him.
Yeah, that's why he's a lady killer.
Honestly, fair.
Yeah. And then Gideon does his screaming.
Gideon does his fucking screaming.
Yeah, and Morgan is literally like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And Gideon, like, the outside in a very clearly green screened window, a light comes on. There's like dogs barking, and Gideon turns around and is like, "Why did no one hear her scream?"
Which, like, is a great point, Gideon.
But
Maybe you could have just said that instead of just yelling. Hey, I don't want to critique you on like how to do your job,
oh,
but
the fear in Morgan's eyes when Gideon just yelling. Morgan is already afraid Gideon's gonna snap at any moment, and Gideon just starts screaming, and Morgan's like, "This is it. This is the PTSS. He did it.
yeah,
He's broken. Like it
yeah,
happened."
which
So
is
funny.
fair.
Yeah,
I
I mean, it's
love
fine.
that Morgan is always on just like this close to kicking Jason Gideon's ass.
He is always almost beating Jason Gideon to death.
And like as he should be, honestly. I wouldn't
As
trust
he
Jason
should
Gideon
be.
with my life at this point because he seems unstable as fuck.
He's so goddamn old. Okay, so while this is happening, Reed is interviewing Norman Miller.
Reed walks in with like the huge ass stack of papers, and then
Yeah.
the guy's like, "If you want to ask me a question, look at me." And then Reed just looks the other way and asks him, like
Oh.
he asked you to look at him if you're gonna ask him a question.
This is one of those things that it's like, is it eye contact in general that Reed doesn't like, or is he just very scared? Because he does make eye contact in the show. They didn't give him that trait,
Yeah,
you know? So, but when I was watching that, I was like, some people just don't like making eye contact, Norman. But I
yeah,
get
and
it.
this whole scene plays out like he is deliberately trying to rile this guy up so that
Mm-hmm.
the guy like snaps at him.
Yeah.
And he does do that very well by just destroying this man's whole fucking life.
Yeah, so we find out, so while Reed is talking to him, Hotch and Al are listening to like the coroner's tape, and they find out that the husbands were missing wedding rings.
Mm-hmm.
So after they do that, they come and they watch Reed do this interrogation. And Reed is like trying to get him to talk. Norman Miller is like, dude, every policeman in the state of Virginia beat the shit out of me last night. What is your twink ass possibly gonna do to me that makes me scared? And then she like jumps at Reed, and Reed like twitches and gets all scared.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I laughed so fucking hard. Hotch comes in and is like, sit down. And the guy goes, is this your daddy?
It's so funny because it's not wrong.
I just love that, like, in one episode, in episode like 5, we get Morgan say, listen to mommy about JJ. And now Anand takes a look at Hotch and goes, is this your daddy, Spencer? Like,
It's so what is these writers' kink? Like, what is this specific writer's kink doing in My Criminal Minds show?
why do I have to watch your hurt comfort nonsense? Like,
You can't
they're
do
like,
that right when I've taken a drink.
I'm sorry. The writers really said, Spencer's an ubu boy who needs to be taken care of. Let's get him some parental figures,
And then we'll take them all away without actually resolving any character trauma.
Every single time he loses that.
I know this is an audio medium, but James did just do a delightful little dance when they said that. And I want everybody to know that.
I did do a little dance. So then Hotch and Elle are standing there, and Reed's like talking to Norman, suddenly all confident now that his dad's in the room.
I guess now that his crew's here to back him up, he's good to go.
And he's like, okay, so like your mom was an alcoholic, she treated you poorly, you were abused, and then you went to a foster home where there was sexual abuse until you were like a teenager. And I was like, maybe we should stop this. And Hotch is like, shut the fuck up, Al. He's onto
Which, like,
something.
Elle was correct to think maybe they should stop this.
Yes, 100%. So then Reed is like, did you sexually assault your children? And Norman starts immediately like crying. And he's like, I would never do that. Yeah, and he says that he found them dead.
Which, wow.
Which is rough as hell.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. And then he like was afraid the cops would blame him, so he ran away. And he said that like his son had been clutching a drawing or like a painting or something and wanted to know what was on it.
Which gets answered later in the most heartbreaking way possible.
Yeah. Blood was on it. Also a drawing of the house, but also blood.
Mainly the blood.
Yeah, so Reed like tells them, oh, I just needed like a way in. It wasn't him. And he was still wearing a wedding ring. Like he still like really loved her. He like wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting.
So they really like introduce this red herring and then get rid of it pretty immediately.
Yeah. I guess they just wanted Reed to do something agent-y.
In this episode. That's like all Reed does this episode too.
Yeah.
He's gone after this.
Well, he and Penelope have a moment that I wrote down,
they have a fun little moment later. I almost forgot about that. Yeah, sorry. Let's continue.
Yeah, so everyone's back at the BAU. They're talking about how like the father was always the last to die, and the guy like knew that they were going on vacation, so they're like, okay, let's look at like travel agents, which don't exist anymore.
In 2005, they definitely existed, though.
Yeah, but just like when he said that, I was like, travel agents to Disney? Like,
I was gonna say, yeah, to drive 12 hours to Disney? Sorry. Did you need somebody to like print off MapQuest for you, or what?
I guess if you're like calling to like make a hotel a reservation, you'd ask like a travel agent the best hotels in the area.
I guess. I don't know. Travel agents as a whole industry confuse me, but
well, I mean, when there was no internet, it made sense.
Yeah, before the internet definitely made sense. Now
you were just like, who the fuck do I call to find out how to take a vacation? Yeah. You know? Now there's a reason travel agents are going out of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were like maybe like a banker who would have known about their money, like people like that. And Garcia's like, yep, they were definitely living above their means. They had a second cell phone. The wife, Allison, had a second cell phone. And there was another home. And she was like paying all this money. Yeah. And they were like, what's going on? So then they go to the house. And Hotch kicks in the front door.
Which I love that they get to take turns kicking in the front door like some hyper masculine contest.
Yeah.
Like hyper masculine pissing contest of who can kick in the most doors this episode.
Oh, it's so funny. So Hotch kicks in the front door. They go in. Derek kicks open the next door and there's a dog in there. And he like falls on the ground and he's like, help me,
He's like, what the fuck do I do against a dog? And Hotch moves his gun like he's gonna fucking shoot that dog.
I know.
I was like, Aaron Hotchner, no!
Also, the dog was just barking.
Like, yeah, it was not moving. It was a very well-trained dog.
The dog was just like, what are you doing in my room?
The dog looked like a sullen teenager when the mom opens the door and they're just like standing there stock still.
Get out! Get
out of my room!
Yeah, exactly. So then someone whistles and the dog runs out of the room. And it's this huge guy in the doorway.
The two like red herring unsubs that they have for this episode are both physically fucking gigantic dudes. This guy is literally taller than the door frame he's standing in front of. He can't get they can't get his full fucking frame to fit in a regular sized doorway because he's too tall.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I know. So it cuts to his name is Frank, which is very confusing. They keep using the same names in the show over and over again.
Yeah.
Like don't name other big reoccurring bad guys the same name you're gonna call other random people. Frank is like a big deal in season 2. Why use that name when it's already been used, you know?
Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. They don't know their own show.
You're right. I'm so sorry. How could I expect anything? So Frank I wrote down cute and scared and big. He's just like some dude. Immediately, you can tell that he's, you know, has some sort of mental handicap,
Mm-hmm.
that Allison has been taking care of him,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. And they mention like um
The
that
husband doesn't
he's,
like him.
yeah, and he is manic depressive,
Mm-hmm.
which now we would say he has bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
We don't say manic depressive anymore.
It
That
was
one took me a
2005.
minute. I know, I was literally like, manic depressive. I was like, what is that? And I was like, oh, right. Bipolar disorder. But he doesn't take his medicine because it makes him feel wrong.
Which,
Um,
correct.
yeah, well,
Mental health
yeah,
medicine sucks ass.
yeah, especially I'm sure in 2005. Um, then, but like, take your meds though.
Take your meds, but also, I'm with you in spirit. I know it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he probably wasn't getting like good medical care, because if your
Oh,
meds are making you
absolutely.
feel wrong, you would tell that to your psychiatrist, who would help you find medicine that makes you feel better.
Also, I feel
You
like
know?
when you're that big as this dude is,
Oh, he probably has to take a lot.
exactly, is what I was thinking. It's like he's fucking gigantic. This guy had a good foot and a half on me, and I'm
Oof.
5 feet tall. So this guy was at least like 6, 7 feet tall. He was fucking huge.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised if he was like 6'7" or 6'8".
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. So, he's Allison's brother, and he knows that she's dead, and he blames Chris, the husband. He hated the husband. Yeah, and the husband hated him too.
he did though. This guy did have one of the Crawford's daughters, Emily's paintings in his house, and it was obviously very treasured to him. He had it like hung
Hmm.
up on a wall nicely and
It was
everything.
like
He's like, "Hey, that's
framed.
mine.
Yeah,
Like, don't fucking ruin that."
yeah. And we find out that like the husband said that if he ever came back to the house, the husband would like put him in an institution, a
So this
psychiatric
husband kind of
institution.
sucked ass.
That's like weird as hell.
That is super rude as hell. If that's not your brother, if that's just like your brother-in-law,
Yeah.
you don't get to do that.
Also, like, he's not violent at all.
He's
You
just like a
know,
big dude.
he's just like a big dude. Um,
Let the guy
yeah,
live.
yeah. And so he finds out that they cut off his phone, which I would assume is because of the money issues. But like, how would he know that? You know. So his phone gets cut off. So he went to their house that day, which I assume is when he like got the dog. But he sees the family sitting for dinner, and the son's crying. Allison is there at the table. Um, and she looks at the window, and he thinks she says, "Get the hell out." But the team guesses that she actually said, "Get help."
Which is fair because there are a lot of ways to interpret lip reading like that.
Yeah.
Get the hell
Especially
out.
if he's
It's
especially
like
if
get
he's
help.
expecting
Yeah.
if he's expecting, negativity, it makes sense that he would assume that she was saying something mean to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy, Frank, makes the note that he saw the wife and the 2 children. He didn't see the husband at the table. He saw
Yeah.
somebody else, like a friend, he assumed, just like a little
Hmm.
guy.
And he said tiny with red hair. So
I
they're
love
like,
when they
"Oh,
describe the unsubs as just like tiny.
they're just tiny, tiny as
They're
hell.
just little guys.
No,
They're
mousy
just tiny
boy.
little guys.
Little tiny mousy boys.
He's a little tiny boy.
Yep. And then Frank starts freaking out because he realizes that she was asking for help, and he has a little breakdown,
Which is very sad,
which is very
actually.
sad. Yeah,
I
we
don't
never
think
find
they
out what happens to
meant
Frank.
for this to be sad, but it was.
It's tragic. He like loved his sister. He said like he liked being around his sister because whenever like he was around her, like everything was okay. And then he like wasn't being allowed to see her or the kids.
Yeah.
It was so sad.
I'm just very sad about all this.
Yeah, 100%. And then they start like, okay, both families had a dog, so the guy definitely came in through the doggy door. Yes. And then we see a new family with a baby, and the daughter is like, "Let me see the baby," and the dad's like, "Let me see the baby," and the mom is like, "Guys, we have a vacation tomorrow. Like, let's leave. Go to bed, please." Um, and I made a note that like talk about escalation. Like there was a month between the first one and the second one, and then there was like 2 days between
Well,
the
they also
next
imply
ones.
at the end of the episode that he's done this a lot more times than people realize.
Right, because
Because
they were like 12
wedding rings.
rings.
Yeah, there were a lot of wedding rings that he stole from the husbands. So I assume there were some other ones that they just like
Oh,
haven't
in the
connected.
middle. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that they just like haven't connected. These were just two that they could connect the easiest.
That JJ connected.
That JJ did the work on. Everybody, let's give Mr. Rowe her due. She did the work here.
Miss Giroux deserves some credit. She's
She
good at her
does.
job. Yes. Um. Okay. And then, so the family is like, let's go to bed, let's go to bed. The wife leaves, and then a man comes out of the closet and gives the baby the pacifier. Bum, bum, bum.
Which this whole fucking scene is so creepy because they're playing that like weird, slightly off-key lullaby the whole time,
Yes.
as they do every other time a family is on screen in this episode.
So
It's
weird.
really well done, actually.
It is. I remember being like, oh God. Like,
Yeah, as soon as you hear that music, you're like, oh, so something bad's gonna happen here. Cool, 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 cool. Got it. Cool, cool, cool.
whenever there's like an altered nursery rhyme or like an altered like mobile,
It's
like
never good
sound,
in anything ever.
it's terrifying. Terrifying.
It is. It just like taps into something of like, well, a nursery rhyme means safety and comfort and quiet. But
Yeah.
now, if you move it up a key, it's bad. It's real bad.
Yes. It just is like this is supposed to be like safe children, and then it's just fucking not. Oh, terrifying though. Okay. This happens. And then it cuts back to, so now we know there's like a time limit, right?
Yeah, you know that this guy they have 4 days now, I think,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Did we get to the part of the episode where Morgan does his whole thing where he's like interacting with a fake version of the killer in the workplace?
We're just almost there.
Okay,
almost there.
let's go to that because that whole
that
scene
made me
is
laugh
bonkers.
so fucking hard. Okay, so it cuts back to the BAU. Gideon's just like staring at the fucking pictures. They can't find any. Okay, I need to just say this because it made me so mad. They're like, we've searched everything. There's no connection. And then Hotch is like, wedding rings. That's the trophy. And suddenly, Morgan is like, wait a minute. One of them worked for the IRS, and one of them was a healthcare provider. They both worked for the government. Like, dude,
How did you guys not realize that sooner?
How long have you been sitting here trying to find a connection and you didn't look at both of their jobs and realize they were connected? Like, what have you been doing?
Were you guys just like hanging out here? Like what?
Like, I don't understand. I don't okay. Like, what were you doing, guys? Come on. Like, they have this very, very similar jobs. Like,
Elle was literally like, Gideon's been staring at that for like 20 minutes. Does he have anything? And everybody's like, no. And then they're all like, do we have anything? Also, no. It's been 20 minutes and we're just sitting here apparently.
It's like so funny. So then Morgan starts like profiling this dude. And normally what happens is they're standing in front of a police department, right? Giving the profile, and the background changes, and suddenly they're in a new place. This time, they were still in the BAU bullpen, but there was this weird, grainy, red filter.
Like a high contrast filter was on it for some reason. It was weird.
I was like, are they implying that could be someone in the bullpen, or did they just like not have the time to like film in front of a green screen? Or I guess
they must have done it as like we know that this guy's targeting government employees, so he's also probably a government employee.
Well, they didn't know that yet. No, they hadn't made that connection yet.
Oh, right. The workplace. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck. I just think they couldn't get a different set for that day. I think they just had to double up on sets.
They were like, listen, we've got another 30 minutes. Why don't we do a couple takes? We'll just throw some red on it.
Just to see if we like it.
Yeah. And they didn't even like change the walls. It was literally just like, he was like, I'm going to the next set of cubicles over. And it's going to be red. Like, yeah.
Somebody
So
over there has some real great mood lighting going on, and I want some of that.
I know. So they figure out that the guy is like a pre-planner. He's like sexually confident, which comes in later and makes me laugh. He's sexually confident. He takes pleasure in the planning. He does a bunch of research. Definitely has like a journal, and he has like those OCD tendencies.
They also, like, they say this phrase twice is like, he plans the work and works the plan. And I'm like,
Uh
okay, men, stop.
huh.
Men. I can tell that was written by one of you men.
What do you
Stop.
mean? It makes me laugh because of the number of times, like in the show, they're like, "Let's get to work," or like, "Time to get to work." They like always say that as if it's this like cool one-liner, and it like never is.
It's like, bro, you are just clocking in. It's okay. It does not have
Yeah,
to be this serious. But the phrase, like, he plans the work and works the plan is so Derek Morgan to me. Like, it's just so
yeah.
Derek Morgan.
That's his like suave, like I work on a plan, and then I work the plan.
It's just such a weird phrase that nobody would ever say in a million years.
It's like pickup nonsense, pickup artist nonsense. Like that's something like someone who nags to get girls would say.
Yeah, yeah, you're
You know,
right.
plan the work and then you work the plan.
Yeah, no, you're completely
Oh,
correct.
terrible. Um, yeah. So then Gideon shows up and is like, Emily made both of these paint houses.
And
Did,
everybody's
did,
like, yes,
they're like,
correct.
yeah. And they
Continue.
said that she was made to paint the black and white one. That it's like the unsub's view of the house. She had to paint the unsub's view of the house.
Which is fair because the black one is much more detailed and better than any of the other children drawings they show
Yeah.
us in this episode.
Yeah, it's interesting. Um, and then Hot just like drops his wedding ring on the desk and it's like spinning really fast.
It's
I was
really
like
like a dramatic moment. I'm like, are you okay, Aaron Hotchner?
I was like, did your wedding ring fall off, Aaron? Is this like a sign for the future or like what?
Is your ring just ill-fitting or were you doing it for dramatic effect?
They really amped up the drama in this first season. They
This
really wanted it to be like dangerous and we're so cool.
Yeah.
Work the plan, fucking ring dropping to make a point, like boom, boom, boom.
And then in the second season they're like the evolution of Frank. Like
Yeah, they just
I
were
can't
like,
wait until we get
whatever.
to that episode.
Ugh, you don't choose who you fall in love with.
That fucking episode, dude.
Ugh, it's so gay. Okay, the show isn't gay yet. Like Elle's gay, but the show isn't gay yet.
Oh yeah, no, not by a long shot.
Yeah, season 2 it starts getting gayer and gayer. Oh right.
Yeah. Once Emily comes in, then you're like, oh, this is a show for the gays now.
Yeah. They were like, you know what? We're going to make a show for the gays. Someone bring in Emily Prentice.
We're gonna bring in a woman in a suit. Are you happy yet, lesbians?
Ugh, we are.
And we are. We are very happy with that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so Hutch spins the ring, and they're like, okay, he wants to like play the dad. They say, play daddy.
What Criminal Minds writer has this kink?
That's the
What is
gay
going
one. That's the
on?
gay one. The gay one is doing his best to like
He's
put in the
trying.
daddy, you know.
God, he needs to stop. I love you, whoever wrote this episode of Criminal Minds, but you need to fucking stop.
Yeah. And then they say to check the inside of the dad's clothes because maybe he like wore the dad's clothes. Okay. And then they realize both victims are government employees. So Derek goes to the IRS and is like, what did you know about him like going to therapy? And the IRS guy is like, oh, I don't like to pry into people's lives. And Derek is like, then why do you work for the IRS? Jesus Christ, Derek.
Literally, this dude was like, I respect my coworkers' privacy, and then Derek is like, fucking IRS? Really? Now? Like, okay, good. Can we chill?
Dude, I just work for the IRS. I'm not the fucking, like, policymaker. Damn. He's like, I'm an office manager.
Yeah, the dude was like, oh yeah, I knew he was going, but I didn't want to pry. And then Derek just bullies him for it. Like, bro.
Hey, Derek,
Hey,
You can
Derek.
make fun of the IRS agent, but you're literally the FBI.
Derek, you
So
work for
like
the FBI. You really can't judge, okay?
Derek, like who the fuck are you calling a snitch? Snitch? Like, come on.
I especially love it when they always hate on like other branches of government
I
or like
know.
local cops, and I'm like, you
That's
guys
you
are the
though.
same shoe, different sizes, same boot, baby. Like what?
Yeah, they're like, policemen. Like, hey, dude, you're just like big city policemen. Like,
You're
what the
just
fuck?
fancy police. You're police times two. Like
Yeah, you're like police with more money. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. Oh, it makes
anyway,
me laugh. They're like, we're so cool. We're the FBI. Fuck the IRS. Okay.
which
Anyway,
is such a wild thing to
I
say
know.
fuck those guys to when the
Oh,
IRS does functionally nothing.
I
Like
know. Oh,
besides bully us about our taxes,
I know.
functionally does nothing.
So funny. Bush was still president during this season, guys. Didn't you know it was fucking Bush presidency?
Jesus
Um,
Christ, this show's been going on for fucking forever, huh?
it had three presidents.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I just sometimes it just hits me that I was like 7 when this episode aired,
Oh, I don't say that.
and you're like, wow, I was 7 years old, huh? Like sometimes you watch this show and you're like, okay, this is a modern show or whatever, and then you go back to watch season 1 and you're like, oh, it was 2005, huh? Okay. Bush presidency. Let's go.
Anytime they're like internet,
What do internet? How do
there's
internet work?
it might be season one or early season two, but there's an episode where Garcia is playing fucking like RuneScape on the FBI Wi-Fi, and she's like having like a cyber date.
That's season 1. We're going to that's I
Yeah,
think the finale of season 1, I think.
yeah, that makes sense. But then JJ is like, please tell me you're not in love with a fictional character. And I was like, don't bully people for playing RuneScape, JJ. Like,
Hey JJ, you collected butterflies, queen. Hey queen, look inward.
same nerd, different type.
Exactly.
Oh, that's sus.
Anyway,
JJ was a fucking horse girl. Like, there's like a flashback to her childhood bedroom, and
she
like
was.
her side table has like a pen with horses, like horse toys in it. Like, JJ, you were butterfly horse girl. You can't make fun of someone for being like into the Middle Ages, you know?
You can't make fun of somebody for being into RuneScape, okay? As much as
Yeah,
we would all like to, you can't.
no. At least Penelope has friends. JJ does not have a single friend. She does not talk on the phone to any friends. She doesn't hang out with any friends. Like
Let
Emily
the
is
bitch
like,
live.
"Hey Bianca, like, do you want to get brunch? Great." Penelope like, has these online friends. JJ is like, "I work, I sleep. Eventually, I have children." Like, bitch has
Anyway,
no
let's
friends.
continue with this episode.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bully JJ, but bitch has no friends. Okay, so they think that it must be like a family therapist or like a marriage counselor because like those types of people have kids draw to get their feelings out, you know?
Yeah.
And then um Reed and Penelope are in Penelope's office. And this made me cringe so hard. Twice, like one right after the other. So first, Reed makes some comment about how like everyone in America is on like medication and he's like if anyone goes to see a therapist, they're on medication.
Which is not how therapy works.
No, a lot of therapists are reluctant to just provide medication. We have an opioid epidemic in this country.
And like that was the case in 2005, as it
Yes.
is the case today. So,
Yes.
okay, Spencer Reed.
Yeah, he basically was like, fuck therapy. All they do is give you medication.
And then he gets addicted to drugs next season. But okay, sure.
Yeah, he
Reap what
does.
you sow, buddy.
So then they're like, okay, then Garcia says, okay, since they're government employees, they're going to have the same healthcare provider as us. So she starts hacking into the HMO system. And Reed's like, is that legal? And she's like, nope, we're going to go to jail and you're going to be somebody's bitch.
And there's a lot wrong here.
I think this is the first time we get Garcia's illegal hacking.
Yes, it is. The other thing, the thing that I do like And this is just a stupid thing because I work in healthcare. I love how they made every government employee have an HMO so that they could be like, well, you have to get a referral for medication, so we can look that up. Because any other good health plan is like, you don't need a referral, just get the fucking medication from your doctor, you're good to go. But with an HMO, because HMOs suck ass,
So
you
what
have
does
to
that
get
mean?
fucking doctor's approval.
Oh. So how is that different? Like the doctor gives a prescription?
So, for say for example, if you're in an HMO, you have to get like referrals to see like specialists or to get certain kinds of medications. So you have to have the doctor give a prescription, and then the doctor also has to fucking file a form with the plan. Whereas with like a PPO,
Oh.
you can just go to any provider and they can just give you medication and you're good.
Oh.
Hi, I work in healthcare.
Yes, you do.
I
That's
have to
good to
deal
know.
with all this shit. It's also funny to note that the government no longer does HMOs. They're all PPOs now. And
Really?
I'm pretty sure they were always all PPOs, but okay. Sorry.
No,
This is
that's
just a
fine.
very small thing that I'm choosing to focus on in this scene rather than whatever the fuck else Garcia said.
Just Garcia being like, yeah, we're gonna go to jail and you're gonna be someone's bitch. Like that's a rape joke, right?
Yeah, it
Like
is.
that's what that is, right?
That is, yeah. That's why I chose to
Um
focus on HMOs in that scene.
cool. 2005.
2005, baby.
Yeah. So they look up the doctor and
Who
it's a
prescribed the
woman.
medication. They're like,
Yeah, and it's
all
yeah.
right, this fucking doctor, let's see what
Yeah.
his name is. And then they pops up a picture
Yeah.
of the woman and they're
Yeah.
like, whoa, women doctors?
That's like,
Okay.
do you know that the joke that's like, or like the riddle that's like, a man and his son are at home and the son gets hurt and they take him to the hospital, but he like has to wait to get surgery because the surgeon can't operate because it's their kid. And you're like, why can't the surgeon operate? And the joke is that it's the mother is the surgeon, but people are supposed to be like, but the dad's not a surgeon, the dad was home, so why wouldn't they be able to, and it's supposed to be like pointing at your own misogyny. It like felt like that joke, like they were like,
Yeah.
surprise, it's a
Surprise, it's a
woman.
woman.
So now you have like the unsub is a woman,
Maybe, I guess.
maybe. And
Anyway,
you
you
like
go to
go,
this woman's office, and as soon as
yeah,
the like therapy patients, they just kind of like barge in the middle of
yeah,
therapy, which is
yeah,
like,
not
okay,
good. And
traumatize a
they're like
child further.
FBI. They're like FBI, and the family's like, oh god, we'll go. And just like
We're just gonna go.
leave.
We're just gonna go. And then as soon as the family is like out of the room, this doctor is like, "What the fuck do you want?"
I
Like
know, and
she is so
she's tiny.
aggressive.
Yeah, she's tiny with red hair, and she's like, dude, what the fuck? I was in the middle of a fucking child therapy session. Like, you know how much work it's gonna take to fucking like undo this? So
It's
fucking
so
funny.
funny to me that
It
she's
is
just
so
like,
funny.
actually, fuck you guys.
Actually,
She's
like,
like,
fuck you
I do
guys.
your job, but with happy endings. So fuck you guys.
Yeah. Um. So they're like talking to her, and she's like, I have 4 teenagers. Like, when the fuck would I have time to stalk someone? And they point out like the medication, and she's like, well, I'm the only one that's like a medical doctor, so like anyone who prescribes medication they'll use my name.
Yeah.
So like that's like a dead end. But she says that she like assessed the cases, and then she goes to like pull out the file, and they added this weird detail where she like doesn't use a computer, and she was like, don't read into that. And I like don't know, like maybe it's because the unsub is supposed to like meticulously like keep a journal, so they were
I
like,
guess
we'll make
she
this
was like,
suspicious.
I like to have the paper files because it makes me feel more in control. And then she looks directly at Gideon. She's like, don't fucking read into that,
It's
Gideon.
so funny. Yeah, she's
She
literally like,
really just like
do
reads
not read
these
into
guys
that.
to fucking filth, and it's so
It is
hilarious.
hilarious. Yeah. She's like, both of them were referred to Carl Arnold, which 2 first names, just like Derek Morgan.
Never trust a motherfucker with 2 first names.
Derek Morgan.
I don't fucking trust Derek Morgan either. I mean, I do. I love him, but like any person, any man especially that I come across that has 2 or more 1st names, you don't trust that. You don't fucking trust
I
that.
knew someone named Kevin Arnold. So reading Carl Arnold is like, I keep trying to say it wrong. Okay, unimportant. They go to his office. It's locked. Morgan kicks it in.
She like offers to go get security real quick, and that probably would have taken like 10 minutes. Derek's like, no, we don't have time. Fuck this door.
I mean, they kind of have 4 days, Derek, but they're like, we don't have time. He kicks it, and she literally is like, someone needs to pay for that, and Hodge goes, Carl Arnold will pay for it. Will he?
What?
No, I
No,
think
I'm
the
pretty sure
FBI
the
will
office
pay for it.
building is gonna pay for it.
I'm pretty sure they're gonna have to tell the FBI they need to pay. Imagine the poor agent whose job it is to like reimburse civilians. And it's like another paper, like 10 years of forms from fucking Derek Morgan being like, kicked in a door, pay them back. Like,
Kicked in a door, give him
yeah.
$300 to replace their whole fucking door, I guess.
And we know that that's how it is because later, when the whole Linda Barnes thing is happening, Emily gets placed with an FBI agent doing like rando FBI shit, and the guy kicks in the door, and Emily's like, I have the key. Now we're gonna have to fill out all that paperwork. It's like so funny. Derek is like, fuck the police. I'm just gonna kick in the door. I am the police. I'm just kicking the door.
Derek really said, like, I don't give a fuck about property damage. Let's go.
He's like, I'm a property restorer and I don't care about property
Literally.
damage. Yeah. So it's got a bunch of like children's paintings up on the wall. And immediately she's like, I don't understand. Like, I don't believe this. But like, he's also a family therapist. So like, is it weird to have children's drawings up on the wall?
Not really, I don't think. But they do use this quite often with different therapists and providers where, like, they have trophies, like, up in their office displayed and everybody treats it as weird. But I'm pretty sure the lady doctor also had some paintings up in her
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, I don't know. That was like, okay.
Weird, but okay.
Weird, but okay, yeah. So you find out that like if he's not here and he's and also they get his home address and like within the span of them walking down the hall and breaking in his office door, the SWAT has like raided his home and he's not there.
Which I appreciate that they're speedy about it, you know?
I guess
Like,
so.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so they raid it and Derek is like he's not home and the doctor says, well, if he's not home and he's not here, maybe he's visiting his family. Which there's no reason for her to say that because the wife, then his ex-wife, later says, I haven't seen him in 2 years. So it's not like he goes to see his family often.
They also do this dumb thing where she's like, oh yeah, he has 2 kids, Carl Jr. and Sarah. And then when
Right.
they cut to the mom, like, yelling at the kid, she says Carl Jr. instead of just Carl or Jr. She says his full Carl Jr. to be like, this is that fucking kid, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I
She's
find
like
it
doing
so
a
weird that
yeah.
you wouldn't just shorten it if you're just like in your own home with only the child. Like,
Yeah. I mean
just
maybe she
call him
doesn't want to
fucking
call
KJ,
him
not like Carl Jr.
CJ.
No, his name, it's Carl with a K.
Ew.
Karl.
I mean, no offense.
No offense, but
Oh,
yeah, no. It's Carl with a K on the wiki.
KJ. Okay, well. Yeah, so they call her and she's like, no, I haven't seen him in 2 years, but he did call me an hour ago. And he's like, he's talking about how precious family is, and he just like met a girl that reminded him of Sarah, and he like wanted to say that. And then she heard kids in the background, and then it was crying, and he hung up.
Which,
So yeah,
a bonkers disturbing call to receive from your ex-husband who you hate. Gotta say,
gotta say
I would be unnerved by that.
yes. And so then the doctor is like, yeah, he has a journal, so they're like, okay, maybe he keeps trophies in his office. Um, and they're like listing the names of the victims, and they said Duncan's. And oh no, they were listing
Like his
the
cases.
folders that he has in his office.
Yeah.
And they say the Duncans, and the doctor says the Duncans wasn't his case, it was mine. He shouldn't have that folder. And they ask the name of the daughter, and it's Jackie, and they realize one of the paintings up on the wall is Jackie's painting. And that the family was planning a trip to the Adirondacks. And they're like, well, okay, well, it's them, right? Um, so they go to the house, kick down the door again. Just
Kick
like
down another door.
every door in this fucking
Every
episode
single
gets
door.
kicked out.
Not a door goes unkicked.
Not a door goes unkicked. Exactly. They're at the dining table, but no baby. And they get the family out of here. They go down to the basement. And then Carl is just like
Holding the baby.
crouched in the corner with the baby.
Yeah.
And they're like, come on, Carl, like, come on. And like Gideon gets closer, and then Carl just like throws the baby at one of them.
He just fucking yeets this baby at Gideon, and
Yeah.
then
They're like, he's
Gideon's
got a knife. And then that's when Derek just like pow, 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 and like shoves him against the wall and is like, you fucking move, I'll fucking snap your neck. Which, like, again, you're a police officer, Derek. That's not
Again, you can't
threaten
like
to snap people's
badass
neck.
your way out of police brutality, my guy.
Ugh,
Again,
right.
as always.
I wrote Derek judos him. You know, because he's got a black belt in judo. Of course.
He's apparently a fucking black belt in judo, I guess.
So then it like cuts to like the elevator opening at the BAU, and he's like in his chains, but he's like smirking, and every time he sees a woman, he's like, "Hey there, hello," and then he like looks at JJ, and JJ's like got her hands on her hips, and she's like, "Oh, it's this fucking guy," like glaring at him, and he's just like, "Hey,"
And he's like, "Hey, you single? You free?"
He's like, "Hey," and Morgan is like, "All right, enough," and just like throws him in the room. And JJ's like, "Tell me you got enough on this guy to like lock him away." And Gideon's like, "We didn't. We need him to confess." And JJ's like, "Can you get him to confess?" And Gideon says, "Did you do what I asked?" And JJ's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, then we should get a confession," and like walks away. And JJ's just like, "Okay."
Like, okay, sure, whatever.
Sure, dude. And so what she did is the interrogation room is like dark. It's like very crowded. Like everyone is in there.
It's very
JJ,
dramatic.
Reed, L, yeah, everyone is in there. Morgan, Hodge, Gideon, and there's whiteboards of the, and she's set up basically like victim 1, victim 2. Like here are the pictures of this family and that family, so that he has to look at it. And like the table is covered in bloody pictures, and it's all cramped and stuff. And JJ's standing in the back of the interrogation room. Like she's in the room, which I don't think we've ever seen her watch like an interrogation before, but she's in this one.
Yeah, she's just here. And I don't know why.
I think they did it for the moment later.
Yeah,
you know?
That's fair.
Yeah, so Carl starts like insulting the families, like the husband was bad, like I wanted to show what happens when like the head of the household isn't strong, etc.
A lot of real like patriarchal, like toxic masculinity bullshit.
Yeah. And so Gideon like shows a picture of Carl's family, and it's like the wife and the kids are on one side of it, and his arm is like outstretched to touch
so
the wife.
Funny.
And Gideon is like, from the outside, this looks like any normal family. And
no,
I'm like,
it does
not.
It? No, the fuck it does not.
It's not even like, ha ha ha, we're so happy we're all together. Like, it's literally him an arm's length away from his wife, who is clutching her children. Like, there's nothing in that picture that looks like a normal family.
If he was 3 steps to the left, it would have been fine, but it just was not.
It was the space between his body and his wife with the arm in the middle. It was just like, okay, like cool, I guess. Yeah,
trapped in a hell of their own personal hell or whatever. I'm like, okay, Gideon, can you calm down? I mean, like, I know that's what abuse people go through, but like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah,
this guy doesn't need to know that. You don't need to like fucking feed this guy's ego anymore, dude.
Terrible. Yeah, so then the guy starts screaming because there's a picture of Chris Crawford's foot with the Miller family, and it's like wrong. And
he's
then
like, you need to move the fucking photo. Move the photo.
Yeah, he's like, it's wrong, and it cuts to JJ, and JJ's all like looking around, like, oops, did I do that? And then Gideon gets up there and it's like, you're right, the photo is wrong, but how did you know that? And then JJ like steps out of the shadows, like, ha ha ha, I did good.
Victorious.
Like, I did it. So I think they had her in there so that we wouldn't think it was a mistake that JJ made. Like they filmed it so that it looked like JJ being like, yes, I did this on purpose. I did not make a mistake. This was part of the plan, you know? Because like if she wasn't there, like it would have been easy to be like, oh, JJ fucked up and it just happened to like work out, you know? But like because she was there,
It
it
was
showed
fine.
that it was correct, yeah. Which I love that. Good. Don't let her be stupid. She's good. She's smart. She knows what she's doing. So once that happens, we see that Hotch is still at Carl Arnold's office. I guess he wasn't in the room, but he's at Carl Arnold's office and he's like knocking things off of shelves with his bare ass hands.
He's just
He,
fucking moving shit,
yeah,
fucking
and he
hitting the
like
walls.
yeah, so
Like,
he like finds like a hollow spot and he like takes the panel out and there's like restraints in this little metal box, like a tin. And you're like, okay, well, there's the trophies,
and
and
there's
then it,
also uh like it almost looks like videotapes or like journals of that this guy kept of each family. So it has like Miller family, Crawford family, and like a
yeah,
few other ones you don't
yeah,
recognize there. That's the other thing that Hotch finds. He's like, okay, so we're good now. We can get a conviction easy.
yeah, and we got a confession, double whammy.
Double good.
Yeah, so while this is happening, JJ and Gideon are like taking down the photos. I don't know why they made us. They like showed needed to fill some time and
I
show them taking
guess
down the photos. Yeah,
they needed to make it a full 44 minutes.
yeah. Maybe that was supposed to be like a JJ and Gideon bonding moment.
I don't
Like
know.
they did good together. Also, we see Morgan getting the confession, and it goes between like the TV screen of the guy and then like the actual guy. And this is where he says like, "I wanted to show what happens when like the head of a household isn't strong, and that it like ruins the whole thing."
And then he's like, I'm strong. I'm a good father when he hasn't seen his own children in 2 years. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, so
clearly not, dude.
is this what men think being a good father is?
I mean, if I'm not actively hurting them, I'm being a good father.
Right? Is that how that works? No, that's not how that works, gang.
No. And then they're like in the briefing room and it does like a circle shot of everyone's face and you're like, what's happening? And then Gideon, barehanded, opens the tin, the trophy tin, dumps all the rings onto his bare hands, and then drops them onto the table. And there's like 10 of them.
It's such a fucking melodramatic shot.
This is what I'm talking about. Criminal Minds, unnecessary drama. It's just like they could have thrown over like Johnny Cash's Hurt and it would have been
Don't
correct.
disrespect Johnny Cash's Hurt like this.
It's in a Criminal Minds episode. I'm not sure which one, but it's fucking there.
Oh, it definitely is. I think it's in every serious TV show at least once.
Oh yeah, I mean it's in Person of Interest. We know that.
But it is. I think Person of Interest has used it the best. No other TV
Yes.
show can compare to
No,
the fucking Hurt montage in Person of Interest. I gotta say it. You cannot compare to
no,
that.
it's so good.
James, what are you gonna rank this episode out of 10?
I really liked this episode actually.
I think this is definitely one of the better ones from season 1.
I like want to say like a 6 or a 7.
Okay. You gonna give it that 7? You gonna give it that high mark?
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah. Give it that 7.
7.
I'm actually gonna give it. Here's the thing: is I need to place this in context that it is season 1.
Yeah, that's why I gave it a 7.
I might give it an 8
Ooh.
because I think it's a really, really good season 1 episode.
I'm gonna give the
really,
next
really
episode
good.
an 8, and this is like one step down from that, so I'm giving it a 7.
Yeah, fair, fair. They do say the episode name they do say the episode title in the episode, except it's like 3 seconds where they talk about Fox in a hen house or whatever, and that's it.
It's Gideon's opening quote.
Yeah.
That's the only time they mention it. Gideon's like voiceover opening quote. It's like
It's
the
like
fox in the hen house.
Dr. Thomas
Okay.
Fuller wrote, "With foxes, we must play the fox." Okay, sure, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Get it. They don't go anywhere this episode, so they don't say wheels up, so unfortunately that will continue to be a frowny face on our spreadsheet.
Mother. Fuck. What if they literally don't say it in season 1? I'm gonna be so fucking mad.
I don't think they do. The
They
only
got
way
to.
I could think that they would say it is in Machismo. Is the only one that I could think they would say wheels up in.
They don't go anywhere next episode either, so
No,
Wheels Up,
they're local for a little bit here.
Criminal Minds.
So that's it for this week of Wheels Up. Y'all stay in touch with us on Twitter and Instagram and whatever at Wheels Up. Oh, my voice just cracked there. Let me try that again, huh?
Ooh.
That's it for this week of Wheels Up, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. As always, you can keep up. Fuck, I cannot do this fucking outro, huh?
No.
We need like an actual outro so that we can actually do thing. That's it for this episode of Wheels Up, y'all. Thank you for listening. You should go give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean the world to me, because then we can climb our way tooth and nail up the podcast charts for this very stupid podcast. You can always catch up with us on Twitter and Instagram at Wheels Up Pod. And, you can find it on your favorite podcast catcher. Why do we call them podcatchers?
I've never heard that before.
Have you never heard that term before?
No.
Oh my god. Am I the only one who's ever heard the term podcatcher? Whatever. You can find us on your favorite podcast apps. If you need a quick link, just go to anchor.fm/wheelsuppod. Until next time, y'all, we're going to be watching episode 108, Natural Born Killer. Which is also a good one, I think. If I remember correctly. I think it's also a fucking great one.
It is.
Do we have an outro? Do you have an ending quote?
Is this your daddy? Daddy Hotch to the rescue.
Stop saying